Hi everyone, we're going to get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar on Access, the Art and Science of the Warm Introduction. My name is Alexandra Baer, and I'm on the marketing team here at Relationship Science. I'm joined by my colleague on our client development team, Rachel White, as well as one of my colleagues on the marketing team, Chelsea Briggs. The webinar will take around 15 minutes, and then we'll have some time for question and answer at the end. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please send them through the chat feature in GoToMeeting. Today's webinar is the first of a 4-part series where we will be discussing how to best leverage the core features of the platform. Today we will do a deep dive into the Pathfinder tool. Future webinars will focus on Power Search, profiles and 360 alerts, and our newest tool, Relationship Discovery. As most of you all know, the Pathfinder tool is the bread and butter of the RelSci platform. The tool is extremely flexible and allows you to understand how people are connected to each other. You can run paths from yourself to a potential client, a current client to a potential client, or from an organization to a target organization. Additionally, you can run paths from an entity to a list and vice versa. Let's now take a deep dive into the platform. So I'm going to show you a couple different examples of how our clients typically use Pathfinder. And first of all, I want to show you how you actually get to Pathfinder. So there are 2 ways when you're logged in that you can get to Pathfinder. The first is through clicking Pathfinder here on the right, and the other is actually going from a profile of an individual or an organization. So I want to show you that real quick. So if you're ever on someone's profile, so let's go to Melody Louise Hobson as an example. If I'm looking at Melody's profile, she's someone that's on my target list that I'm trying to get in front of, and I'm interested in seeing how I'm connected, I can go down to this relationship part of her profile and see any commonalities that I have between people I know and who she might know. And I'm seeing here that our CEO, Neil, is connected to her. But I can also click this See All My Paths, and that'll take me straight to Pathfinder and show me all the ways I'm able to get in front of her. I just wanted to show that to you real quick so you could see how you can go to Pathfinder from someone's profile. So I'm going to go to Pathfinder on the right-hand side, and this is what it looks like when you get here. You basically have 2 boxes. You have the from and the to. So if you think of this, I'm trying to get from one place to another place. This is how Pathfinder works. So it automatically fills with me. So basically what this is looking at is, through me, I know 97 people. I've told Relationship Science there are 97 people that I'm connected to, and I can basically put whatever I want into this 2 box. So I could put an organization, an individual, or a list I created. So I'm going to run through a couple of those different lists. But first one I'm going to show is how I can get from me to an individual. So I know many of you are looking at people that you're trying to get in front of. You may have tried reaching out to them. They aren't getting in, you aren't being able to get to them, and so you want to be able to see who within your network you can leverage for a warm introduction to get to that person. So I'm going to type in Melody, whose profile just pulled up. I'm going to click Show Path. So what this is now doing is pulling all the results from RelSci of all the different ways that I'm able to get through me and my network to Melody. So you'll notice a couple things when you get to the results. The first thing you'll notice is the color coding. So you'll see 3 different colors throughout the results. You'll see red, orange, and yellow. And this basically signals the strength of the relationship we believe there is between one individual to another individual. And I'll show you that in a little more detail in a second. The second thing I wanted to point out is that you basically have, this is the path right here. And starting here is me. So this is me, Alexandra. And then I'm trying to get to Melody. So Melody is at the end of the path. And basically these people in between are the different ways that I'm able to get to Melody. So I can look through all these results and see through this first degree connection of mine, these are the people that I know. So as a campaign to fix debt. And so I'm able to mouse over this path right here to see the relationship there is between Kay Bailey and Greg. And I can see what exactly the connection is between the two of them. And then right here is the strength of the relationship. So red basically signals strong. So we believe there's a strong likelihood that Kay knows Greg. And the ways that we derive strength of relationship is basically a couple different ways. We look at overlap. So how long were you both at the same place? The seniority. Was I the same seniority as that person, or was I really junior analyst at the same time as someone that was an MD? We also look at, are you still there? So they're both still current. And so we pull all these things together in our algorithm and bring up the strength of the relationship. And so I can see here that there is a strong connection between Kay and Greg. And then I can mouse over here and see between Greg and Melody that there's also a strong connection, and I can see how through the World Business Chicago and the Commercial Club of Chicago. One other thing that we do highlight within the path are any common items. So this is basically surfacing anything that both profiles within RelSci share between each other. One other thing I'm able to do here is click on 23 more paths. So let's say I'm meeting with Kay Bailey next week and I want to come prepared with what my ask is going to be of her. I can basically go through here and see all the different ways that I'm able to get in front of Melody just through Kay Bailey Hutchison. And so I can see through here that she potentially knows Pat Mitchell through Bank of America and the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And as you can see, the different colors appear, and you can keep going down the page and see all the different ways you're able to get in front of her. A couple other things I wanted to point out that you're able to do within the search results. You're able to group. So if I wanted to group, so right now this is looking at through first degree connections. If I wanted to look at this through my second degree, I can do that. We also have sorting capabilities. So this automatically defaults to the strength of the path. But if I prefer to look at this through the number of degrees, so right now this is showing it's first degree, second degree to get to Melody. But I'd rather just see first degrees first, even if it's a weak connection, I can do that. And the other thing we can do is filter. So we're showing the different paths between people and the overlaps and commonalities they have between them to another person. And this is pulling from any types of commonalities they share. They were on the same board, or they used to work at the same company, or their company invested in another company. They are part of the same membership. If I'm not interested in seeing a particular path, or if I only want to see one path, I can come in here and customize my search results. You can also, if there's an individual or an organization that you don't want to see show up in your path, you can also remove them here as well. So it's pretty flexible, as you can see. And then one other thing that I wanted to point out, so if you ever get search results from Pathfinder and you really want to save it and bring it to a meeting, or you're meeting with your team and you want to show them, look what I'm able to do in order to be able to get in front of this prospect of mine, you're able to run a report on basically any path that you run. And you can export it as a PDF or a CSV, and you can select how many paths you want to show. You can also choose specific paths. So if I only wanted to show a couple different paths, then I could do that here, and I can just basically select the path that I want to include in the report. And this will basically just download on the spot, and you can print it off or save it on your computer. So one other thing that you're able to do, and many of you have done this, is basically create a relationship web in your firm. And what that basically does is allows you to be able to not only leverage your personal network that you've told RelSci, so I've told RelSci I know 97 people, so you can also leverage the relationships of your colleagues. And you can do that by going into the Colleagues tab. So if I look through my results and I see, I have some interesting paths to get to Melody, but maybe my colleagues have a more direct path, I can do that through going in here. And rather than the starting point being me, the starting point is now my colleagues. So I can see that Jason and Ashley have both, through their own platform, told RelSci that they know Melody. And Ashley, for example, has said she kind of knows her, so this could be an opportunity for me to go to my colleagues and see if they're able to provide me with an introduction to Melody. And then I can go through here and see all the different other colleagues of mine who have said that they might know someone who is connected to Melody. So my colleague Jason Delavante has said he knows Robert Conti, and Robert Conti is potentially connected to Melody. And there's a strong connection through the Investment Company Institute. So that's looking at Pathfinder from me to an individual. Now let's look at this as me to a company. So let's say I'm trying to get in front of AT&T. But I don't know exactly who at AT&T I need to get in front of. I just know that that is one of the places that is on my list of prospects. So basically what this is doing here is this is showing how I'm able to get to decision makers at AT&T. If you go to the AT&T profile within RelSci, you'll see the people that we have profiled that are at AT&T as well as the board members. And so these people on the side are basically people that we believe have some type of connection to AT&T. And so these results are basically showing that through me, how am I able to get to an individual at AT&T? And this little hook up on the side basically shows the person's strength and influence to the organization. So I've said I know Sarah Perot, and Sarah Perot, there's a strong likelihood that she's connected to Debbie Story through AT&T Performing Arts Center. And if I go down, I can see all the different ways that I'm connected through the people that I've told RelSci that I know to people that are at AT&T. And so you can see there's different people that are being listed over here on the right-hand side, because these are all different employees or people that have some type of connection. So it could be someone that's a past employee, but might still have some type of influence or way to be able to get you in the door at AT&T. And as you can see on the top, you have the same filtering, sorting, grouping capabilities, and you can also print this off as a report. So if you're going to a meeting with your team and you want to be able to show how you're connected to someone at AT&T and be able to figure out and strategize what the best way is to get in front of somebody at AT&T, it's a great way just to print off a report. You can also go to your colleagues tab, and same as before, you're able to see through the lens of your colleagues' relationship how they're able to connect you to people that are at AT&T. So the next example I'm going to show you is how the Pathfinder tool can work if you want to look at how a company is connected to another company. So let's say I want to be able to see how employees at Apple are connected to employees at Samsung. What this is basically doing is taking the two profiles that RelSci has, the one on Apple and the one on Samsung, and it's showing the overlap between people at Apple and people at Samsung, and showing where the commonalities exist. So I can look at this first example, and Guy, who is Senior Vice President, Software Engineering at Apple, there is a strong likelihood that he's connected to Gregory Lee at Samsung through the CTIA Wireless Association. And so here again, I'm able to see all the different ways that people within one company are connected to people at another company. And the last thing I wanted to show you is basically using our list functionality. I know many of you have created lists, and lists live over here on the right-hand side of your site. And lists are really helpful if you have a list of people that you want to be able to leverage within RelSci. So some of our clients will upload a list of their prospects, as it can be people or it can be organizations, and we'll basically use that list throughout the RelSci platform to be able to, see how they're connected to people. If you're a wealth manager and you're wanting to upload a list of your happy clients to be able to see how they're able to provide warm introductions to potential new clients, that's another list that you can upload. If you're interested in learning more about lists, I definitely encourage you to get in touch with your account team, and they can help you upload the list and really figure out how to best leverage the tool, because I think it's really helpful. So I'm going to show you how it would work if I wanted to use a list within Pathfinder. So let's say I'm trying to get to people that are on the Forbes 400. I'm going to click Show Path. And basically what this is doing is this is showing through me how I'm able to get to people that are on this list of people that I uploaded into RelSci. So I've uploaded a list of people that are on the Forbes 400. And so this is now showing me how, through my network, I'm able to get in front of targets of mine that are on the Forbes 400. So as you can see, the results, look the exact same as before, except now what this is doing is showing through me and then through my first-degree connections how I'm able to get to people that are on my list. And so Tom Warner, who's my cousin, I'm able to see that he is potentially connected to, and there's a strong likelihood that he's connected to John William Henry, who's on this list, through a couple different ways: Liverpool Football Club, Fenway Sports Management, Red Sox Foundation. So if I wanted to ask a favor of my cousin to introduce me to him, I now know how I can get directly in front of this individual. And same thing here, I can also look and see how my colleagues are able to get me in front of people on my list. So those are a couple examples that I wanted to show for how people are using Pathfinder. As you see, it's really flexible, and you can make it what you want to make it. If you ever want to run a path from you to an individual, you to a company, you to a list, a company to a company, if you want to look at an individual to an individual, it's really how you want to use it, and your account team, I'm sure, is more than happy to help you really get the best value out of using this tool. And if you want to see any specific examples as well, they can help you do that. I'm now going to pass this over to Chelsea, who's going to run through some questions that we've received on the webinar today.
Great, thanks, Alexandra. I'm going to answer the first question that we have coming in. As Alexandra had mentioned, she spoke about the Forbes 400 list that she ran a path to from herself. So is this list in the system for everyone, or would I have to create that list to use my own account? And Rachel's going to be answering the questions on this webinar today.
So there's a couple of ways that you can create a list like the Forbes 400. They're not in everyone's account by default. We do, however, have a service that will input those pre-canned lists like the Forbes and the Cranes and sort of popular lists that we had into your account. In order to request that on your account, you can just use these two buttons at the top of the page, Contact and RelSci Services. If you click Contact, you can send an email to our client support team, chat them, or call them live and just let them know which list you're interested in, and they will go ahead and give you those lists.
Great. Question number 2, can you run a path from a list to another list?
You absolutely can, and that's a great and sort of interesting use of the RelSci platform. So let's say we wanted to take this is sort of a random example, but you can see that in this account there's a Fortune 100 list and a Fortune 400 list. And let's say you wanted to just see the overlap of those two. Instead of running a path from me, I'm going to change this to Fortune 100, and you'll see the different lists that match that name pop up in the drop-down here. And I can just select the Fortune 100 list as my starting point, map that against the Fortune 400 list, and click Show Paths. And then what you will see in the results list is basically on the left-hand side of the column are people that are included on my Fortune 100 list. So you see Barry Diller and Larry Ellison. And on the right side, people on the Forbes 400 list. And sort of an interesting, of course, there's people that are on both lists, which is why you're seeing some of the same names here. But as I scroll through, you might see some interesting connections between two people that are on the different lists. So for instance, Robert Bennett is on the Fortune 100 list. We think he has a connection to John Malone on the 400 list. And you can see their overlap just again by scrolling over the connection between the two.
Great. The next question we have is the red the first degree, and what does yellow designate? Talking about the colors of the pathing.
So the colors of the paths are going to indicate strength of the relationship. Now, strength is calculated by RelSci's mathematical algorithms that look at the connections and the details between a connection for two people. So excuse me while I scroll down to that last example we were looking at. This is a red connection, which indicates strong strength. Now the strength, just to give you a little bit more information, looks at the overlap between two people. So it looks at factors like how long did two people overlap at an organization. So if two people were on the same board for 10 years, that's going to be stronger than if they overlap for just 3 months. It's also going to look at the seniority. So were they both very senior and likely to work together, or a weaker connection would be maybe an associate to a partner. It's also going to look at the type of path. So is it a family connection, which is obviously stronger than worked at the same company together? So factors like that, and if you're interested in a lot of details about how we calculate strength, definitely reach out to your account team or to the client support staff, and they can walk you through all the factors that we use. But anyway, so red is going to be strong, and then we also have average and weak paths. Average are orange, weak are yellow.
Great. Next question. Can I create my own list downloaded from Outlook and link it to a watch list or to a Forbes list?
You can do that. So if you scroll up here in your list section, this is going to house all of the lists that you've ever created, and it's also an area where you can create a new list. So when I click View All Lists, now I'm on my List page. And if you want to upload from an outside Excel file like your Outlook that you have to a new list, or to add to an existing list that you already have in RelSci, you're going to click Upload File to List, choose your file from where it's saved on your computer, and it does have to be in a comma-separated value Excel format, and you can go ahead and upload that to RelSci. Again, if you need help with that, because that's a little bit advanced in terms of functionality, definitely feel free to reach out to our client support staff using the contact button. You can even live chat them and talk through it live via IM, or talk to your account team, and they can actually, if you want to email them a spreadsheet, create a list for you. Now, just to show you one other thing, if let's say you wanted to add Apple to a list, you can also sort of on the fly add Apple to an existing list that you have by pulling up their profile in RelSci and clicking this Add to List feature. And you can either select the existing list that you want to add them to. So for instance, I click AB List, and the checkbox indicates they've been added to that list. Just as easily I can remove them, or I can scroll down and create a new list to add them to fresh on the fly as well. You can do the same thing with people.
Okay, the next question, do you have localized lists like CEOs worth over 10 million in the city like Seattle?
So what you can do is you can actually create your own list using another feature in RelSci called Power Search, and that's in the right-hand column here. So we'll probably have another session that goes into more depth around Power Search, which you'll all be invited to as well. And you can also feel free to reach out to your account team for training on this specifically. But this is the area that you can sort of screen for a list of people that meet certain criteria within RelSci. So just to show you a very brief demonstration of this, if I wanted people in Seattle, I would choose location and say Seattle. And I can say people that are primary located in Seattle. And then let's say I want, for instance, C-suite people in Seattle specifically. So in this role feature, I'll just type C-suite and senior management people in Seattle. And I can even say I only want people that work in, let's say I'm focusing on technology, information technology spaces. And there's a lot of different filters, which again on the next webinar we'll go through in more detail. But I can say, people that went to a certain school, or people that have invested in a certain company or a certain industry. And then once I'm all set in terms of filling out the criteria, I click Search here. And this is going to create that list for me. And then to use it in Pathfinder, all you have to do is, here's our results list. I just click Save, and I save this as a new list. So just to give you an example, let's call this our Seattle list. And then now that's saved in my account, it's going to be populated in this list of lists that I have, and I can now use it in Pathfinder. So if I wanted to go back to that functionality we were discussing, where I'm finding a path from me to the Seattle list, I can now see paths to that list that I just created. So that's the way to create a more specific list using criteria that we've tracked in RelSci about the people in our system. Again, if you want, more advanced help, or you want, a specific Seattle list that's, outside of RelSci, you can also contact our client support staff to help you organize that as well.
All right, and the last question of today, can I download lists from Salesforce into RelSci?
You can. So in Salesforce, you can create a report for a list of people or companies in your Salesforce instance. You can export that report to an Excel file, and in the same fashion, once you have that Excel file that you've exported from Salesforce, you'll see you can go back to the list section, click Upload File to List, and just choose that Salesforce file that you have and upload that to a list as well. And again, I can't stress enough, if you want to do that project, just give your account team or the client support staff a ring, and they'll just walk you through that live, from the point of starting in Salesforce to the point of creating it in RelSci.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Chelsea. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. We hope that this was helpful to you, and we hope that you'll join us on another one of our webinars that we have coming up. As I mentioned, our next one will be on July 16th, and we'll be sending out a follow-up email that will have a survey in it. This is the first webinar that we've done, and we'd love to get your feedback on it. And if you have any ideas for other webinars that you'd be interested in us hosting, there will be a question that you can enter in that there. I know there are a couple more questions that we had that we did not get to answer today, so we'll be reaching out to you individually and following up on your questions. And if you have any additional questions in the future, as Rachel mentioned, you can do it through this contact feature